In the heart of a sweltering Atlanta courtroom, where justice often felt like a distant dream, Officer Harlan Brooks, a burly cop with a badge tarnished by years of unchecked bigotry, sneered down at Marcus Kane, a decorated black Navy SEAL on trial for a crime he didn't commit. Picture this: a courtroom explodes into chaos when a racist cop assaults a black Navy SEAL right in front of the judge, only for the cop to drop dead seconds later, bullet-riddled and lifeless. If that hooks you, smash that subscribe button right now for more jaw-dropping stories that expose the raw underbelly of America's justice system, and hit the bell to never miss an update. Your support keeps these truths alive for audiences in the USA and UK. The courtroom buzzed with the low hum of anticipation, the kind that hangs heavy in the air like storm clouds ready to burst, as Marcus Kane, a towering figure of quiet strength forged in the fires of SEAL Team 6 missions across shadowed corners of the globe, stood chained at the wrists, his navy dress uniform crisp despite the indignity, facing charges of assaulting an officer during a routine traffic stop that had spiraled into a nightmare of racial profiling and planted evidence. Officer Harlan Brooks, the plaintiff and star witness, sat smugly on the stand, his potbelly straining against his ill-fitting uniform, his eyes narrowing with that familiar gleam of prejudice as he recounted his fabricated tale. "This thug here, he came at me like a wild animal, resisting arrest, probably high on something, typical for his kind." The judge, an elderly white man named Elias Hawthorne, peered over his spectacles, banging his gavel lightly to maintain order, while the jury, a mix of skeptical faces from diverse backgrounds, shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing the undercurrent of injustice. Marcus's defense attorney, a sharp young Latina named Sofia Reyes, objected fiercely, "Your Honor, this is blatant character assassination rooted in bias." But Harlan just chuckled, a low, guttural sound that echoed his disdain. As the proceedings dragged on, Harlan's testimony grew bolder, laced with slurs whispered just loud enough to sting but not to provoke immediate rebuke, painting Marcus as a violent ex-soldier unfit for society, ignoring the Purple Heart pinned to his chest from saving lives in Afghanistan. The tension peaked when Marcus, unable to contain his composure any longer, spoke up calmly, "I've served this country with honor, sir. Your lies dishonor the badge." Enraged, Harlan leapt from the stand, his face twisted in fury, and before the bailiff could intervene, he delivered a vicious kick to Marcus's shin, the impact echoing like a crack of thunder, sending Marcus stumbling but not falling, his SEAL training kicking in to maintain balance even in chains. Gasps rippled through the room, the judge's gavel pounding furiously, "Order! Officer Brooks, stand down." But in those chaotic seconds, a muffled pop rang out, then another, and Harlan jerked backward, blood blooming across his chest like crimson flowers, his eyes widening in shock as he clutched at the wounds, collapsing to the floor in a heap, dead before he hit the ground, the courtroom erupting into screams and pandemonium as people dove for cover, the judge ducking behind his bench, and Marcus standing frozen, his mind racing through tactical assessments even as accusations flew. Who fired the shots? The bailiff drew his weapon, scanning the room wildly, while Sofia Reyes shielded her client, yelling for calm, but the twist unfolded like a coiled snake striking. It wasn't an outside assassin or a vengeful spectator, but Harlan's own partner, Officer Lena Vargas, a Latina cop who'd been sitting in the back row, her face a mask of quiet rage, now standing with her service pistol smoking, tears streaming down her cheeks as she dropped the gun and raised her hands. "He killed my brother," she confessed in a broken voice, the courtroom falling silent except for the distant wail of sirens, revealing a hidden history. Harlan had shot her unarmed sibling years ago in a mistaken identity incident swept under the rug, and she'd bided her time, infiltrating his precinct, waiting for the perfect moment to expose and end his reign of terror. But as investigators swarmed in, another layer peeled back. Marcus wasn't just any SEAL, he'd been undercover for the FBI, investigating police corruption in the department, and the traffic stop was a setup to draw out Harlan's network of racist enablers. The planted evidence: a flash drive in Marcus's pocket containing recordings of Harlan's illicit dealings, including bribes from drug lords and cover-ups of brutality. In the ensuing chaos, as paramedics confirmed Harlan's death, 3 precise shots to the heart, Lena was arrested, but her confession cracked open a Pandora's box, leading to raids on the precinct that uncovered a web of white supremacist ties within the force, with Harlan at the center, his home later found littered with hate memorabilia and encrypted files linking him to national extremist groups. Marcus, cleared of charges in a whirlwind emergency hearing, emerged not as a victim but a hero, his testimony sealing the fate of a dozen corrupt officers. But the deepest twist came weeks later in a quiet debrief. Lena wasn't acting alone, she'd been tipped off by Marcus's FBI handler, who orchestrated the courtroom confrontation to force Harlan's hand, knowing his volatility would create the opening for justice outside the system. Yet, in a final gut-wrenching revelation, Marcus discovered his own SEAL brother-in-arms, a white veteran named Jake Harlan, Officer Harlan's estranged son, had been the one to supply the intel, torn between family loyalty and moral duty, ultimately choosing to betray his father to save lives. As the dust settled, Marcus stood on the courthouse steps, the sun setting on a city forever changed, his chains metaphorical now, vowing to continue the fight against systemic rot, while Lena, facing trial, became a symbol of vigilante reckoning, her act sparking nationwide protests and reforms. The judge, Hawthorne, resigned in disgrace, exposed for overlooking Harlan's past complaints, and the jury, dismissed but forever marked, carried the story into their communities, igniting conversations that rippled across the nation. In the end, what began as a kick in court ended not just a life, but an era of unchecked power, proving that sometimes, justice wears no uniform, arrives unannounced, and strikes with the precision of a SEAL's resolve. But whispers lingered. Was it truly over? Rumors of a surviving Harlan accomplice hinted at retribution, setting the stage for shadows that might one day return, leaving Marcus ever vigilant, his story a testament to the fragile line between hero and hunted in a world where prejudice dies hard.